People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, so this week we had somebody reach out to us on a podcast group that I run, and they said, "Hey, I'd like to throw my name in the hat." And I'm like, "All right, well, comedian. I'm ready for that." Mm-hmm. And then, good, let's do it. And I started researching the dude. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this podcast, guys. Dante, the comedian. Dante, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you guys, really. And I love magic, so this makes it even better. I'm a huge magic nerd.
All right,
I love magic.
Oh, sweet.
So with your last name, everything is just Dante Comedy, Dante Comedian. How do you say your last name?
SpaghettiOs, I think. I don't know. I've never really pronounced it. No, I'm kidding. My last name is Rusciolelli. That's but it's spelled Rusciolelli, so people can't spell it or say it. So I dropped it way before the internet, not realizing that once the internet came out and people went to search Dante comedy or it was Dante's Divine Comedy, the Dante Alighieri, the poet, would come up first. So I've had to really market myself differently and crazily, and it's been a weird struggle, really. And then, of course, there was the big magician, Dante, that I'm sure you know, which I have a great little story about. Sam Kinison said to me one day that he had gone to some museum, I forget where, and stolen Dante's magic cape. He took his cape and he kept it. And then when Sam died, I always told people, I'm sure that that cape is at a Goodwill somewhere here in Los Angeles. Turns out his brother, Bill, still has the cape, and I think he may have even donated it to the Magic Castle because they now have a Dante area at the Magic Castle. So I think that's what may have happened to that cape that he stole.
Oh, I have to make phone calls. I want to find out. I'm a huge Dante fan, so that's awesome. And yes, I did run into Dante's Inferno, Dante's Tragedy when I was searching for you today. I did hit that.
You know what I did? I actually named my new album Dante's Divine Comedy, the same thing as his poem, because I wanted college kids to download my new album and make me rich by accident, just by accident.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. How's it working?
Why not?
Is it going good so far?
No idea. I only put it out like a month ago, so I don't think I have real analytics. I haven't even checked yet. I'm kind of waiting for the surprise check to come in to compare the two, you know, because I have another album out already, and I kind of just want to see. I just kind of did it as a goof. Who cares? I'll put out another album, you know. But I just thought, how funny. Let's go with the same exact title and see what it does.
So how many albums have you put out?
I've only put out two, really. I put out one about 15 years ago, and then people were like, when's your next one coming out? And I had all this material, so I gave it to an editor. I'm like, why don't you put together like 3 shows, whatever you think is best. I don't know if I've listened to it, to be honest to you. I trusted him. He's like a fan and a nice guy, and he put it together, and people said they liked it. So, and I knew what the jokes were because he put it in order, and I listened to probably 10 seconds. I'm like, fine, good enough. And it's not like I'm putting out trash. I gave him, you know, good specials that I wanted to use. I've been filming specials for years. I don't know, like we even have some comedy specials that we filmed 2 years ago that aren't even out yet, but we're about to release them, I think, on Sirius XM and some other places. They're called Killer Comics Unlimited, and they have lots of great comics in them.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
So where do I get it at? Is it just iTunes? Just an album off iTunes?
Yeah, so if anyone wants to get Dante's Divine Comedy or Dante Does Dallas, just go to iTunes or anywhere else. And if, like, I have the free iTunes, or not free, but I pay for I can get every album. I should just sit there and play my album all day on a loop, right? Wouldn't I make more money doing that or something? Someone said if you just
play it. Sounds good. But I mean, it's like a nickel every 1,000 plays. So
yes. Yeah. That I can do.
Yeah. So I don't know, you need one of those banks like you've seen on did you see the banks of everybody, like the influencers have like a room full of 900 cell phones, and they're all just pushing play on 900 cell phones. They're just walking up and down and pushing play.
Oh my
to get all the clicks. You haven't seen those rooms with the banks in them?
No, but I believe it. I believe it. Everyone's doing everything silly. Like I like having organic followers. That way they actually show up to my shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to sell tickets buying views. Yeah.
Right. Bots don't help me.
Dude, you got so much. And if I'm on my phone during this podcast, for the people that are watching this, I apologize. But I'm scrolling through his IMDb, his YouTube channel, his TikTok. It's just so much. And I don't even know where to start. Let's start with your beginning, like I do with magic. How'd you get started in comedy, man?
Oh, that's a nice question. So the truth is, I grew up on a Navy base here in California called China Lake. It's if you guys know where the map of America is, and you know where the butthole is, it's in the butthole of America. It's where I grew up. It's this really bad town called Ridgecrest. The base was fine actually, but it was just a small town and there was nothing to do and no real entertainment. And like when I wanted to, I really wanted to be a comedian. Like I had all the Richard Pryor albums memorized, all the Bill Cosby albums. What happened there, right? Sometimes you think you can trust people in sweaters, but not always. Anywho, those guys inspired me, and my dad was in charge of base visits, and one day an improv group came through, and I turned to my little buddy, his name was Jared. I said, do you want to be comics together? And he goes, okay. So we kind of took one of their routines but wrote the jokes ourselves, and we did it at our school and we did it everywhere else. And then my dad got a job in San Diego when I was 12, and so I kept seeing signs saying the Comedy Store. Well, by the time I hit high school, when I was 15, I turned to this other kid, Gerald, and said, you want to be a comedy team? And we became Dante and the Wolf. We went to the Comedy Store and the Improv, and we had to run inside and then do our show and run out because we were under 21, but we never told them our age. And I show up there, and Faison Love is the doorman at the Comedy Store. Do you know who he is? He's the big
I know
black
the
guy
name.
from Elf. Did you remember Elf? He was like the manager in Elf. He's in all the John
Yeah.
Favreau movies. He was in Friday. He and I went to high school together. We've known each other forever. So I go to the Comedy Store and he's the doorman. And I'm 15. He must be like 17. Right. He was a couple years older. I'm like, I thought you had to be 21. He's like, shut the. He goes, they think I'm like 30 because he looked like he was 50 already. You know what I mean? He always looked the same. And he goes, I'll tell him we went to high school. I'm going to tell him you're 19 so that way in a couple years you guys can get in. And sure enough, it really helped. Like for like a year and a half, we ran in and out. But when I told them my fake birthday was going to come up, no one even bothered to ask me for the fake ID I'd printed. But that's how I got into comedy. I was underage and I ended up working as a doorman until I turned 21 and could legally move up to LA because I figured, hey, these guys haven't checked my ID yet, but I'm going to wait before I move to LA and, maybe someone, it was scary. It was scary. I'm not going to lie.
So a lot of your I want to get back to the Comedy Store. I have a question. We're going to go back and then go back to this. I'm all over the place. I was just thinking about Bill Cosby yesterday. Is he in jail now? Is he just retired? Because I know he was still, even through everything, he was still trying to do shows.
Right. He's crazy.
You would know. Right.
I think he's out and he's trying to do shows. See, the difference between him and a lot of other people is I think he was faking his illnesses. You know what I mean? Like obviously he was like, I'm blind. I've got dementia. As soon as he gets out of jail, I'm going on tour. Hey, everybody, I'm cured. So I don't know where he is, but it just seems like, who's going to go to his tour except people that know that, what they're doing. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, but I was just thinking about him yesterday because I know he was touring.
And he was great. It's so sad. I watched him. He was great, man. I went and saw him and it breaks my heart. All these guys break my heart.
It was great because, I mean, the Cosby Show I grew up with it. It was classic. That was wholesome television when I was a little boy,
Isn't that sad?
Anyway, well, and then now it's like they're pulling it from television. You can't watch it. Well, what about all the other actors that were on that show with residuals? They have families to support as well. It's a great show. Don't take the show away.
Great show. And I mean, hey, look, we're in a weird place with the Me Too movement because I'm all for it, by the way. Shitty men, shitty people should be called out for shitty things. They should. But there was also a miscorrection in there somewhere. You know what I mean? Like Aziz Ansari was called a bad date and he got in just as much trouble and lost his own TV show, and then there's the Harvey Weinstein. How are those two next to each other? You know what I mean? He was just a bad date to one lady who wrote a bad review about one date they went on.
Right,
so
right.
I mean, there's obviously, but with Cosby, I mean, God, my wife has a joke in her act about this. She's like, we all say that Michael Jackson's a pedophile, but then Thriller comes on and we're like, because this is Thriller. And then her line is brilliant at the end. She's like, man, Michael is so good. We should have just been paying him in kids.
Man. No, I saw something today that was a conspiracy theory thing, saying that he owned all the rights and Sony was trying to kill him and everything, and that's what. But he said that because he had all that pull over Sony, that Sony was paying the families to bring him up on charges. That's why he never got prosecuted. That's why stuff got taken care of.
I
Who
think
knows? Who knows? I don't know.
as
I
someone
wasn't
in Hollywood, every time I hear strange stories like that, I'm always like, come on, there is no Sony mafia. You know what I mean? Like I've been to Sony. Everyone there is just you and I who happen to have a job there. You know what I mean? It's not like they're going after Michael. You know, like when people were saying, "Oh, these people in Hollywood, they're eating babies to live longer." You know how I know that's not true? People who live in Hollywood believe in science. So it's just not going to happen. You know, like they don't believe if I eat this baby, I'm going to live longer. It
Yeah,
just
that's
doesn't
weird.
happen.
Yeah, I don't know about the baby eating thing, but yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
they're out
you
here.
may be right. Look, there may be some crazy person at Sony that did do things, but I'm just saying when I hear these conspiracy theories, I take it with a grain of salt because that's what happened when Prince died. This guy turned to me, he's like, "You know why they killed him?" I'm like, "Because he liked fentanyl. That's why he's dead. He liked fentanyl." You know,
Hmm.
not everything's got a weird story behind it. I wish it
But
did.
but us laymen that live out here in the country in central Virginia, we can't wrap our head around having that much money, that much admiration, that much love, that much, and be a freak as well. We can't. That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to most of us either because it's not like everyone in Hollywood was Michael. We all thought he was nuts. You know what I mean? But at the
Right.
same
Yeah.
time, we all accepted it his whole life. Like we all watched the evolution of Michael and we were there for all of it. Hey, he just likes holding little kids all the time. He's always holding kids. What
Off the
happened? Like,
radar. Yeah. Yeah. So let's get back to the Comedy Store because that could take us down a crazy rabbit conspiracy hole there. So
by the way, I
Comedy
love
Store.
conspiracies. I'm not against them. I'm for them. Like I've seen ghosts and UFOs and everything. I'm just saying not everything I hear, I believe, but you may be right. Who knows? I don't know shit about shit.
I know I'm not right. I know I'm not right because I don't know that world and I don't know. But let's get back to, I want to hear about the Comedy Store because we can have a whole nother podcast about that stuff.
Yeah.
Who was there when you showed up at 15 years old or 16 years old to the Comedy Store?
So everyone,
What era?
everyone. It was the 80s, man. Richard Pryor took me under his wings. Andrew Dice Clay, Sam Kinison. You know, who else was hot at the time? I think Arsenio Hall had his big show on television. Everyone was there every single night. Um, and and because I was 15, they all wanted to be my mentor. They all wanted to, you know, they were all really nice to me. And I had this crazy experience. I just posted a lineup from the Comedy Store. It's like Bobby Lee, me, Doug Stanhope, Joey Diaz, just like killers, you know what I mean? Andrew Dice Clay, on and on and on. And that was just one night out of 1998. And that's how it was every night. It was a crazy time, and I'm writing my book right now. It's like I'm not famous. No, I've had my own sitcom. It's kind of like I said on that podcast thing. I'm like I've done all these things, and you might not even know my name. Um, but yeah, it was quite the journey, especially, you know, meeting these guys. Some of them were at the end of their career, like poor Richard, like he was already sick when I met him, you know, he had MS and things like that. By the time he actually came on my sitcom on BET, and it was his last TV appearance ever. But what was so sad was Paul Mooney was one of the writers for my sitcom. And we had invited Richard, and he showed up with his friend David. David was like his just main guy. He was always pushing him in his wheelchair. He was always there, even when Richard wasn't sick. David came up to us and said, "Richard can't talk today, you guys." And me and Paul were like, "Oh no, what do we do?" So we figured it out that Richard would pretend to whisper to David. David would say all of Richard's lines. And that's how we ended up having to do it. And that was his last TV appearance, man. It was pretty sad, but I was glad to be a part of
He,
it.
he just didn't have the energy that day, or just the
You know
health
what?
didn't have.
His disease had progressed so far that that was about probably the first day he couldn't speak, and I don't know if he ever got his voice back, because every time I saw him on
Wow.
television after that, it was him like next to his wife, and she was doing all the talking.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's weird.
So when you said
Yeah, go ahead. I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say I never throw anyone's phone numbers away. So it's like, and it's kind of good because about a year ago, someone I needed to get a hold of Richard Pryor's wife to see if I could have the rights to something, and I still like she answered, thank goodness. So that was good.
Wow. Wow. when you said that Andrew Dice Clay was there, was he the Dice Man back then when you first showed up, or was he?
Oh, man, he
doing...
was at the height of his stuff, you know? Like I started at the La Jolla Comedy Store in 86, but by like 1990, he was the biggest thing out there, man. You know, I remember I even had a bit in my act where I did Andrew Nice Clay. Like I just kind of did him except nice, you know, like Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. I should have warned him. I was his friend. Don't sit on a wall. You're an egg. You know, stuff like that. Just dumb. Andrew Nice Clay.
That's funny, man.
That is funny.
That's funny. Dude, so you said just a couple minutes ago, you know, I've had this great career, but you probably don't know who I am. But I think doing research today, I have seen you before. I have seen you around. I was watching reels of your acting things. I have seen you in stuff. I just know it in my heart. The Wizard
Everyone
of Oz
says
thing,
that.
did you
Like
do
people
that
will
on...
see my show and say that. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's awesome. So you're right on the verge of breakthrough and household named I think. I don't know.
That'd be nice.
Did you do the Wizard of Oz? Did you do the Wizard of Oz sketch in the Last Comic Standing? Because I know I've seen that before.
So yeah, now I'm gonna explain this. So my Wizard of Oz bit is really old. I was on a show called America's Funniest People. Do you guys remember that? It came on after America's Funniest Home Videos. It was Tawny Katane was the host with Dave Coulier from Full House, the guy that Alanis Morissette really pissed her off. That's what that whole first album is about Dave Coulier. Did you know that? Anyway,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I won the grand prize on that show. And here's how it worked. I actually had a bit at the time. There was a Pepsi commercial, I think, with Ray Charles, and he was auditioning people to be, you got the right one, baby. Uh-huh. And so I brought in all these characters like Jack Nicholson. All right, you got the right one, baby. You know, just all these different people coming in and doing it. So the next day I go do it for these people at a comedy club, and this lady goes, I want you on the show. Here's the problem. Coca-Cola is our sponsor. You can't do this. And I'm like, but I can't make up some other thing. And she's like, you're going to have to do something. We're filming tomorrow at 6 a.m. right back here at the club. If you want to be on it, we want you to be on the show, but you've got to come up with something else. Put them in a movie. She's like, put them in something popular. I don't know, Godfather, Wizard of Oz. And she like threw out 10 movies. And I was like, Wizard of Oz. That's a good one. It's my mom's favorite movie. I literally went home. I wrote it within like 2 hours, slept for a couple hours, drove back, did it at 6 in the morning. They called me a week later, said, come in, we're filming you next week. And I won the grand prize. So then after that, I went on BET and I did the Wizard of Oz and I won like 3 BET awards. And then I was on Last Comic Standing with Amy Schumer, Doug Benson, all these people. And I got the first standing ovation at their semifinals from doing the Wizard of Oz. And it's been fun, but here's the problem. It's also from 92. Like I have people at my shows that weren't even alive in 92. Thank God most of those people are still famous. Thank God even young people go back and watch like what are those Back to the Future movies with, you know, one of the characters, that Doc from Back to the Future that I do. Right, Christopher.
I had to explain to my wife who Bobcat was.
What's
Your
that?
Bobcat's amazing. She doesn't know Bobcat.
Oh, thanks.
She doesn't know Bobcat.
Oh, see, she doesn't know Bobcat. Like I grew up watching him and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember he was in something called One Crazy Summer, and that's how I learned to do his voice. He was talking. He had one scene. He's like, let me tell you a story about a little fat kid no one liked, and everyone used to pick on him. Were you the fat kid? No, but I used to like to beat the shit out of him. You're so fat. That's how I learned.
One Crazy Summer was Cusack, right?
Yeah, it was a fun movie, man.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
The
Curtis
cartoon.
Armstrong is in that booger from the Revenge of the Nerds. Yeah, that's a fun movie.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. But I mean, you had Gilbert Godfrey. You had you
De
did
Niro.
Christopher Lloyd, but I talked to him. Yeah. Awesome, dude. Awesome. I love it. I love it. I got to get your albums. I was seeing if they're available on YouTube. I didn't see anything, and the only thing I could find for the Wizard of Oz was in a montage of the 20-minute video, but it was grainy footage. But then I found a good one that was really good, and that's what I just showed her. I love it. I love it.
I don't even.
But that's
I don't
where
even.
my wife.
I don't even put them
told
out.
her,
I should put it out more. I used to put out the stuff from TV, and then they always take down your TV stuff. Always, always, always. Like, and I don't get it because other people who were on Last Comic Standing, they use all their clips from it. Mine, they disappear every time. Who knows?
Huh.
You have to write to them and ask them. Yeah, and you got to make sure that the residual money goes to them. So my Fool Us clip, every time it plays, I have over 1 million downloads for my Fool Us thing. I turn off the comments. I would have more, but I turned the comments off because people are trying to figure it out and everything. But the residual money goes to them. I don't see the residual money. So you have to set up that agreement with NBC, and then they're fine.
I see. Okay. All right.
But if you just try to put it up, they won't let you. Do you have the footage of your last comic standing and things?
Yeah, and I'm glad that I do, because that one I actually had a problem with NBC. They tried to make it look, on my last day there, they tried to make it look like I lost the show, when in reality it was a really close show. Like, we all did well. We were fighting each other in this, a comedy battle, and we all did great. But what they did was they did a trick where they like cut out my punchline so it just looked like, and then they would cut to the audience going like this, which none of it happened. And then the guy who they said won, they cut to like a big standing ovation. And in reality, I wrote, it was all back, when the internet it was 15 years ago. And I was like, hey, none of this is true. I said that footage they used of his standing ovation was when the guy was throwing t-shirts to the crowd. I said, none of this is real. And so NBC, after everyone kept demanding, finally posted my unedited video where you could tell that I'd killed. But they only just posted it on their website, like as one more thing, like, oh, this is the actual clip, blah, blah, blah. They didn't make a big stink of it. They just were like, well, no, that's what we do.
I have a friend of mine that was on AGT, and they put him in a boo montage when he actually got a standing ovation.
I hate that.
Because they can edit it however they want.
Right. If he said one dumb word, like the dumb duck, like all of a sudden now he's in the dumb file. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
They didn't want me on the show, I could tell. I mean, it's not like they didn't want me, but I was in a tent of all these people filming one day, and there was a second tent next to us, but we filmed it all one day. It's supposed to be 2 days. So they're announcing who's the winner. So they say there's going to be 5 winners from your tent, Dante. You guys are number 1, day 1, and then there's 5 winners from that tent. Well, sure enough, I'm the first winner. I go out there. They bring out the rest of my cast. I think next was Doug Benson, then Amy Schumer, and then Ralph Harris, and then Lavelle Crawford, right? Then they go to the next tent, and they're supposed to pick people out of there. They've stopped filming us. We're off the stage. All right, day 2, everybody. We're back. These are all the people that performed, blah, blah, blah. They bring the cameras back into my tent, and they pick the first guy out of my tent. That lets me know I screwed them up, and here's how. I won an audience vote that forwarded me into the winner's circle. But if I didn't win it, they obviously had their 5 picked. That's why they stuck in my tent. And then they only took 4 out of day 2. So they had to like switch that this guy was actually on day 2, even though he was on day 1. Whatever happened, they wanted someone, and I screwed it up by winning.
Wow.
Huh.
Wow.
It's really crazy.
See,
and they know who is going to win just by like, they can manipulate it, like the whole, from January to July, they ran a promo commercial featuring John Reep and Lavelle Crawford at the beginning telling jokes, and then about 16 comics not on the show, and then Lavelle Crawford and John Reep at the end. And guess who won? John Reep came in first place. Lavelle Crawford came in second. I knew it was going to happen. Everywhere we showed up, I'd get off the bus with Amy Schumer and Doug Benson. No one's clapping. The minute Lavelle and John get off, people are like, yeah, we love your jokes. No, it's because NBC ran a promo with you guys 25 times a day for 6 months. That's why you're famous. And that's what happened.
Wow.
They completely manipulated it for 6 months to make the audience fall in love with those two.
Yeah. Well, I remember I could recite the punchlines, and then I'm like, how can I recite oh yeah, because it was in the commercial 15 times. I had seen it over and over. Yeah.
Over and over. Yeah.
So I'm just going off this list now. How does it work? Look at this, Natalie. These are movies he's been in, but I don't know. I'm gonna let you explain it. Okay. I was on your IMDb playing around. These are movies I love. There's a million movies. I just picked out ones I love. Rat Race, Little Nicky, Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, Anger Management, Seabiscuit, Fat Albert, Rocky Balboa, Wild Hogs, and Semi-Pro. He was the warm-up comic for those movies. I'm not saying he was the lead star. He was the warm-up comic. I know how that works in television. How the hell does that work in movies? Please tell me.
You know, you're the first person to ever ask me that on any podcast, and I think it's one of the most interesting things about me. So I have done this for about 100 movies, and you just named about 10 of them, and there's probably 90 more you could name, and everyone would recognize pretty much every single one of them from all the Dark Knight movies, the Spider-Man, everything. Um, what happened was one day, this guy named Cash came, he sent an assistant to the Comedy Store looking for a warm-up guy for a movie. I guess he had figured out he was going to start filling extras in movies because basically SAG will pay about 100 extras to be in a big movie, but after that you kind of just got to get people to show up. You just don't have a budget for it after that. If you need 10,000 people to fill up a stadium, are you really going to pay them $250 to sit there all day? No. So this guy Cash figured out a system where if the studios would pay him say $5, $10 a head, he will bring in thousands of people. He'll provide them lunches. He will give out prizes to them, and he'll hire a famous comedian to come in every day and give away the prizes, tell them jokes and all these things. So he hired me for something called Man on the Moon with Jim Carrey. I went in day one and just started giving out prizes and telling jokes. And next thing you know, for the next whatever it was, 20 years, I was the only warm-up guy for major movies. Anytime a movie had thousands of extras at a stadium or Seabiscuit, like you said, at one of those racetracks, they were full of humans. And I would go in and like perform in the snow to like 14,000 people in Louisville, Kentucky, or wherever we were. And
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. You're out there for like 16 hours, and you have to be entertaining between shots. Obviously, people are most happy when they're filming, but then when they're not, and there's like a 20-minute break, 2-hour break, whatever, they leave. There's nothing keeping them there. And if you keep losing the guy in the red jacket who's standing right behind Adam Sandler, we're in big trouble. So it was my job to keep them all there.
Wow.
Wow,
So
that's
you've
cool.
seen that job change dramatically over 20 years just for cell phones.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
you
well, the
gotta.
main problem is it's like I don't even do that job anymore because now you can fill it with just digital fake people. You shoot your 100 extras and then you have them switch positions, and now you shoot them over there and you shoot them over there, and now you just place them in platelets all over your computer. And if you look hard enough, you'll see the same red jacket 100 times, but if it's just in the background, you don't even notice it.
But they didn't fix that during the recent the strike. They didn't fix that.
No, no, and that's okay. I mean, really, like, are there really unpaid extra rights? Like, what are we? They probably made it even better for background extras, I hope. But the one thing that was interesting to me to see was that in the old days, they used to use blow up people. If you watch old movies in the old days, from the 80s, 90s, and look in the crowd, you'll see blow up people just sitting in the crowd with like hats on them. And then later they got smart and started using like cardboard cutouts of humans, and there would just be some company, just like this guy Cash I told you about, and his job was to fill in seats where Cash wasn't with fake people.
Wow.
But yeah, if you
Wow.
go look at
Give
an
me a
old
movie.
Batman movie or
Give
something,
me a
just
movie I
look
can.
at the crowd. Yeah, it's crazy looking.
So put it on. Put it on.
Yeah.
Like the high definition. Put it on.
Yeah.
What is it? Blu-ray. Put it on
Yeah.
Blu-ray,
And
and
pause
then
it.
do the zoom function. Look in the crowd. Yeah.
Anything from
Oh,
the
I'm gonna be
80s and
doing that
90s,
tonight. Awesome.
especially 80s, 90s, early 2000s, I'd say. Yeah. Look in the crowds. It's crazy
So
looking.
these movies I listed, you're on set with them for 16 hours a day. We've
Weeks
worked a
at a
little bit in
time sometimes.
television.
Yeah.
Um, did you get to hang out with? I mean, the people, Tobey Maguire, Adam Sandler, everybody from Rat Race. Did you get to hang out with them much? The comedians know you? Did you get to talk comedy?
So yes, yes,
Or
and
were you
yes.
sitting?
I was very lucky to have done all those. And more importantly than just meeting these guys, a lot of them I already knew, like I'd go
Right.
work
For
on a movie.
comedy.
Next thing you know, like Tracy Morgan's there. And I'm like, hey, Trace, how whatever. Or, sometimes I knew the director or the writer. So it was always kind of nice. But then a lot of times I'd go in there. I've never met Tobey Maguire before, or I never met this person. And sometimes people were jerks, but 99% of the time they weren't. And then the nice part is like they treated me like anyone else. So it's like if they all went to lunch, I get to go sit down at lunch with Tobey Maguire. Next thing you know, after a week, he knows who I am. I know who he is. He may not remember me now because it's been 20 something years, but if I bet you if I ran into him a year later, he would have remembered me because we spent a lot of
Yeah.
time together. But it was better for me. I would say this. I looked at it more as like school. Sure, and I wanted the money because the money was great, but for me it was more of school. I was watching directors like Milos Forman direct and pull tricks and like God, what's his name? I love this guy too. It's bothering me. I can't think of his name, but he directed the NWA movie, Straight Outta Compton. He did this one great trick. What's his name? Gary something. Anyway, F. Gary Gray,
I
I
got
think. F.
okay.
Gary Gray, he did this trick where there was this camera on like a zip line at the back of the concert, right? When you watch the movie sometime, there's a zip line of a camera and it comes down and they had this cameraman run in so smoothly that he grabbed it off the zip line, ran around the stage with it. You never noticed. And then he puts it on another zip line without you noticing. And it goes all the way back up into the crowd. It was incredible. But it was like, I'm a movie director. Getting to watch people pull tricks like that, I was like, man, I couldn't pay for this in college. I couldn't.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that is awesome.
And you worked on some big. Was it all the guy that did this? Was it all Sony Pictures or was it Paramount and Sony? And
Oh, it was
MGM?
anyone who had over, 200 extras that they needed. I was called in anytime. Yeah.
That
So
is
sometimes there's
awesome.
like a high school football game where you only need a couple hundred people in the crowd, and sometimes it was anger management at Yankee Stadium where the whole place was filled.
Wow, dude,
Yeah.
this just. I can already tell this could be a 6-hour podcast because I'm so in the weeds and I'm loving it so much. I don't even know where to go next. Tell me about your TV show.
Okay, so there was a show on BET called, it had two names, and I don't know why. I think they changed the name like season one. It originally started out as called Nothing But a Woman, and then they changed it to The Blackberry Inn because they realized it was a show about this one female comedian named Miss Laura, who was one of the queens of comedy. I don't know if you ever watched the Queens of Comedy special, but she was one of the queens of comedy. So Miss Laura owns a hotel, is what the premise was, and she has these people that work for her. If you ever saw the A Team, I basically played Mad Dog Murdoch. I was the janitor, and I was crazy, and so every episode I thought I was either a runaway slave, or I thought I was this guy, or I thought I was that guy, or whatever, and it made it chaotic. And they're like, "Oh, Bob's off his rocker again." And but anyway, so the way it would work is about two or three black celebrities, usually black or at least someone in that culture, like Lisa Leslie at the time was the big basketball player, and like Warren G and Nate Dogg and Richard Pryor. These are all like guests, like those would be the three guests on one episode. And they'd check into our hotel and they would have a little adventure while they were in our hotel, and then the episode was over. And then the next week, three more celebrities would come in and stay
Love
at
Boat. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was like Love Boat or Fantasy Island or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. A crazy janitor that thinks he's a runaway slave.
No.
That's just a funny premise there. That's hilarious.
It was, I got to say the one thing that I'm writing in my book, and this one kind of actually almost made me cry while I was writing it. The producer of that show tried to pull something on me and I wouldn't do it. And look, I was the only white face there. And this is the 90s. This was like after the Rodney King trial. Like there was it just wasn't cool. The guy said to me, "Hey, in your Runaway Slave one, because I really did play that in one episode, you're going to do it in blackface." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." And he goes, "Yes, you are." And I said, "No, I'm not." And he goes, "Well, you can either do it in blackface or get fired." And I said, "Well, I guess I'm fired." And so he didn't talk to me the rest of the day, but our celebrities were already there and everything else. And so they filmed me. But guess what? After that day, even though I was on the show, I would get like one or two lines for the next year. That was all I would get on the show, where I was like basically starring before that. Luckily, it was like at the end of the 2-year run so I didn't give a fuck, but it was not cool. It was not cool.
I could totally see him telling me that, and I'd be like, whatever you got to do. That's why you have a public. Because it's dumb. It's dumb. It's only bad. It's not good at all. But you're my boss. That's what you want. I'm gonna do it. But
Well, see, that's what I would have thought. I would have thought, hey, it's BET telling me to do this, but every instinct in my body told me not to do it, and I know I did the right thing. Because that would be haunting me today. That would be haunting me today. I would have no career today if I did that.
Yeah, you did. Congratulations, man. You did great. Dang on it. Because I mean, I do that. When I worked my first television show I ever went on, I was a nut. Because I wanted them to see how hard of a worker I was, that I showed up early every day. I was the last one to leave. And because I was such a hard worker, I got crapped on. I had extra chores. So everybody else went home for the day. I had to go and drop this prop off or go pick up tomorrow's prop or do this or do that. And I was the first one there the next morning. It was driving my wife crazy because she was with me. And I'm like, honey, I'm trying to, and it worked. I mean, they noticed me and they still talk to me and everything's great. But I could see myself. You want me in blackface, whatever I need to do for the job. I want to be,
I
I
get
want to
it.
make you happy.
Hey, you're right.
Yeah.
And you are a struggling actor or trying to please people, and you're just assuming that you're doing the right thing. Honestly, if that were years earlier, I probably would have done it. I probably would have. But
Yeah.
what had already happened to me by that point is I was offered to be the host of Comic View, which was it was a huge deal. Like black people had two comedy shows and white people had a million. You know, they had Def Jam and Comic View at the time. And I said to my black friends, they offered me the hosting gig for Comic View, and my black friends were like, "You can't take it." They're like, "You're white." They're like, "It's a black show. It's on BET. It's only had two hosts already, and they're both black." They're like, "Come on, go host the evening at the Improv. Go host something else." And I was like, "Okay, I won't do it." So I turned it down, and then they ended up hiring another white guy anyway, named Gary Owens, who's doing, you know, he's had a good career and blah blah blah. I'm not mad at him. It just wasn't right for me.
Wow. Wow. Well, I want to talk to you about, we're going to change gears dramatically because I have like a paragraph. I'm telling you, you have an amazing freaking career. I think we could go 6 hours with you, but it's just blah, blah, blah. I've done this, been known for, I boxed with Muhammad Ali. We'll get to that in a second. But also, I've killed somebody and I've saved multiple lives. You killed somebody, please. What the
No
heck?
one's ever
Why
asked
would
me
you put
this,
that?
and it's the only one that I'm like, man, that would be my first question. So I've never actually murdered someone. Here's what happened. I'll tell you the truth because I can not cry over it, and I finally told my family what happened. So my mom and dad both got cancer around the same time, and my dad said, "Your mother is dying. You need to get home. She's in a coma, a cancer coma." And I said, "I'll be right there." And my mom and my dad, I called them every day, 5 times a day. They were my best friends in the whole world. And so I ran to my mother's side, and I've seen people in a coma cancer. You get about 2 hours with them tops, and then they're just gone forever. Forever. They just die. You'd stop breathing. So I'm holding my mother's hand and I'm kneeling at her side. I'm like this, right at her bedside. And I'm kneeling and I'm holding her hand. And I watch her stop breathing and I watch her go. And I tell her I love her. And I go, damn it. Now I have to go tell my dad that his wife is gone. And, you know, and I go to get up. And as I stood up, I heard my mom's oxygen tank start up again because I'd been leaning on her tube the entire time. My knees were on her tube. So as soon as I got up, I hear, I'm like, no. I
Oh
didn't
my
tell anyone, I'm
God.
not kidding, for 6 months. And then finally, when I told my wife and daughter, they both started laughing and went, don't you know your mom would have thought that was the funniest thing ever? She would be talking about it today. She's probably talking about it up in, like, who cares? Like, you saved her from 2 more hours of suffering. Big deal. But I suffered with
Oh,
that for 6 months until everyone told
Oh,
me it was okay.
God
yeah.
bless you. God bless you, man.
Oh,
Oh, that
man.
is horrible.
I know it sounds like
That's
I murdered
that's worse
someone,
than,
but thank goodness I didn't, you know. But she really would think it was funny. She would like that's my mom's sense of humor. That would be her favorite story ever, actually.
and you said you lost both your mom and dad to cancer?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cancer's rough, man. It sucked. It started off with my brother died first. He had a heart attack. He was half homeless. And I say half homeless because he would be homeless and then he would get a job, then he'd be homeless, then he'd get a job. It was a rough life for this guy, man. And I tried to help him. Everyone tried to help him. He died of a meth heart attack. And it was before everyone was getting universal health care in America. And it's like, I voted Republican and Democrat my whole life. And I mean that, like straight down the line, like whoever's best I voted for. So this isn't a political statement for me. But my brother went to the hospital before we all were getting care. And he said, I don't know. I think I'm okay now. I'm okay. We just can't afford to go in. We can't. If we go in, I'm going to be, you know, it's going to be thousands of dollars, even if they just check on me and say it's just heartburn. He went home and died. Same day. Like he had a heart attack that day and died because he was too afraid of money. This is one of the only countries in the world where people go, I'm not going in because of money. And after that, when this whole healthcare thing came out, I got my first healthcare for the first time in my life when I was like something. I'd never had it before because I couldn't afford it. Even through SAG, I had it for like 6 months when I was in a movie. And then when I tried to rebuy into SAG, like in the 90s, I said, how much is it monthly? And they're like, oh, it's only like $2,400 a month. I'm like, wait, I thought you guys have thousands of people. Shouldn't this be like $12 a month? Why am I paying 24? Oh, but it covers everything. You get that. It was like, oh my God. So I just never had health insurance. I never went to doctors.
I thought the SAG health insurance was better than that, cheaper than that. I had no idea.
It may be now. I don't know. What I went through before was terrible, terrible, terrible. And
Wow.
the way it is you have to make so much money now. It's like 24,000 every 6 months, so you can even have insurance. And if you don't make that much, then you don't get it. So if you make 23,000, forget it.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so I'm just going through this. Tell me about the first thing you have here. We haven't even got to it. Tell me about your comedy camp. I've been told, listen, I love comedy. I love comedy, but I've been told you can't teach comedy. But I also know you can't really teach magic. So I know what those people are saying, because if you are talented, if you're outgoing, if you have some qualities, it can be taught.
Correct.
But I can't grab a homeless person off the street, give them some jokes, and tell them to go up on the stage. I think that's what they're saying.
Correct. But I will say this. Yes, that is 100% the best way to say it, because as a matter of fact, you could teach any homeless man on the street a magic trick and he can repeat it. Does that make him a magician? Absolutely not. Just like I can teach him how to tell a joke. It doesn't make him a comedian. He told a joke. He did a trick. But you can teach people the skills, the tricks. You can teach them. I bet you know things that you could probably tell younger magicians that will save them 5 years of their career right now by just going, don't do that. Don't go work at that club till you're ready. Because if you do, they're going to use an open micer and it's going to add 10 years to your career. Little things like that you give people. So yes, there are going to be people that come to you, and some of them you go, my God, if he's not just going to be a hobbyist, I can't have him in my class. But most people that show up aren't untalented. Most people that show up are actors in Los Angeles, at least for me. It's a little different than like when I lived in Ridgecrest. Those would just be a bunch of people coming that like, I'd like to do comedy finally. Whereas in LA, most of these people have been performers their whole lives, and they're like, everyone's like, you should be funny and blah, blah, blah. Some are good, some aren't. But you're right. You can't necessarily teach them to be funny, but you can give them all the right skills. You can teach them timing. You can teach them, even joke structure. People don't even know how a joke works. Like most comics are like, oh, when I start, I'm going to tell these funny stories that my whole family likes. I'm like, no, you can't tell a story. Telling a story is like cutting a woman in half. You're not ready for that. You don't even know how to just trick me with a card trick. You know what I mean? A story is like the most majestic thing in comedy. That's what Pryor tells. And what these guys don't realize is that story is actually just like 70 little jokes. They're all setup, punchline, tag, setup, punchline, tag, 70 times to form a story, and that's where we can help people. Like, oh, you have a joke about going to a hotel. You have a joke about flying to Japan. You have a joke about being on an airplane. Why don't you take those 3 separate jokes and make them one long joke about, hey, I was flying to Japan. I get on the airplane and then this happens. And then at my hotel, this happens. And then at the blah, 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 this happens. Now you've got a story. That's where I come in. You just had 3 jokes that didn't make sense or didn't connect. I said, put them all together because we don't care if you lie to us. We don't know if that airplane ride was to New York or whatever. Does that make sense? So you're right.
Yeah.
I can't make you a comedian, but I can give you all the skills and tools to help yourself become one if you have the talent.
So to prove those people wrong, the only person that I know, because I'm a magician, I love comedy, but I don't know 100 like you do. I know Brian Callen famously took comedy lessons, like a class like you guys. Now take that with a grain of salt. But do you know other comedians that have taken comedy classes to start out their career on that's been successful? Did we lose him?
Oh,
he froze on us. There you go.
Hi, sorry.
Go ahead.
I've been teaching comedy classes since '88, and I don't want to call anyone out because not everyone wants to say they took comedy class, but I will say this: there are A-listers. There's A-listers who have taken my comedy classes that you would recognize if I said their names. There are comedy club owners in Los Angeles who have taken my comedy classes. There are winners of television shows who've taken my classes. There are people who've won television shows and then came and took my class after doing it for 30 years. I get people who are veterans coming to my class. It's crazy.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, I asked a bad question. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see why they wouldn't want. Yeah, I'm just natural. I'm naturally talented,
I
but they
believe
needed
it. I
to learn.
believe it. I believe it. And it is, look, not everyone can do it. You are right. You are right. But it's like when someone does have the talent and they listen, because there are tricks out there that you can really trick your own mind into making the world better. I mean, like my wife was having a bad tour one time. She was just new to comedy. I had a ex-girlfriend who was on the tour, not by my doing. I didn't even know it till we showed up. There were like 7 comics on this tour. One of them's an ex. And my poor girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was the new one. And she had a bad show the first night. And she was crying in the car to the next gig. And I said, babe, you're great. Don't worry about them. They've all done this 10, 20, you're 2 years. Don't worry about it. I just wish I could prove myself in front of them. I said, you want a standing ovation tonight? Then go get one. How? And I told her a trick. Would you like to hear it? Here's how I've won
I would love.
every comedy contest I've ever won. Here's what I do. I memorize I'll put together the perfect act. Like let's say it's 7 minutes I have to do on TV. Put together those 7 minutes. See it and say it 100 times. 100 times you don't even have to think about the words. Then shut your eyes and watch the best HBO special anyone could ever do with those 7 minutes. And then do it again, and then make it better the second time, and make it better the third and the fourth, and then stand up in the mirror and do it just how you saw it in your head. She did that, and I said, imagine yourself getting that standing ovation at the end. The next night, at 2 years, she went out there at a Marine base with 7 of us and got a standing ovation as the first person on stage. I've never seen that before or after, and she's never tried before or after. But that night, she got it, and she didn't ask for one. She just did her shit, and at the end, everyone stood up, and I was like, she did it. There was a guy in a
Yeah,
wheelchair who wanted to win a comedy contest. I gave him the same thing, and he's stuck in a wheelchair, and he speaks slowly, and he's paralyzed. He did that thing, and he won my contest.
Wow.
that is awesome, dude. That is
Yeah.
awesome. So is your wife still a touring comedian as well?
Yeah, we were just in Reno all week. Her name is Rebecca Cochin, Kochan. Most people actually know her. She's pretty famous in horror movies and LGBT comedies. In horror movies, she's in like a lot of those like sci-fi movies or whatever. She's the one who kills the killer at the end. Like at the end, she's the one walking out all bloody, like, oh, my friends are dead. I hope the police are here. And then she was in these gay comedy movies called the Eating Out movies. And I know they sound dirty, but they're not. They're for gay men. And they were kind of like the American Pie movies, but more successful. Like still, like it literally started 20 years ago, 3 days ago. There was an anniversary. And there's 5 movies out. And it doesn't matter. The biggest gay stars in the world come running up to my wife and they're like, oh my God, it's you. It's the craziest thing in the world. It really is. Like we were on Broadway and she was like,
Uh,
oh my God, I love that drag star. And I was like, I'm gonna go tell that drag star who you are. Next thing I know, I have a picture of the drag star like screaming at my wife, like it's you. It's hilarious.
that's awesome. That is awesome, dude. Yeah, I don't know anything about that movie.
Yeah.
I never. That's awesome, man. Yeah, dude. So Rebecca Cochin, is that correct, Rebecca?
Yeah, Rebecca, Rebekah. She's super duper funny. She actually hosted the AVN Awards on Showtime. Those are the porn awards, and everybody who'd hosted it up to this point was like Lisa Lampanelli, Doug Stan, every huge name comic in the world had done it. And our manager calls up and they're like, oh, Showtime wants Rebecca to host the AVN Awards. I was like, she goes, oh, you mean Dante? Like, no, you. And I guess what had happened was she had done a showcase at the Comedy Store where like she was going up before Lunel, so she assumed Lunel was going to go dirty, and so she went dirty, and the crowd I guess was like half and half, and it was a showcase for industry. So she got off stage a little upset, and I guess some guy grabbed her arm and was like, "You're really funny," and she like pulled away and walked off. She called me like, "Ah, I hated tonight's show," and some guy was trying to hit on me afterwards. I'm like, "I bet he just thought you were funny." Cut to a few months later, it turns out that guy was one of the heads of Showtime. And he goes, I love you and I want you to host the show. And it had nothing to do with him hitting on her. He really did. And that's how it worked. And she performed to 40 million people. And what was really interesting was the director of it said, he goes, Dante, I know who you are, but Showtime is forcing your wife on us and blah, blah, blah. And I looked at him, I said, she'll be the best host you've ever had. I promise. After the show was over, we went to a private party and in front of everyone, he goes, Rebecca, I'm saying it in front of everyone. You're the best host we've ever had. Each year we get a call from the new host of Avians going, the director told me I should call you because you're the best host he's ever had. So
Oh,
pretty nice.
that's sweet.
Pretty nice. But yeah, she's a killer. A killer.
Wow. Wow.
They even told
That's
her they're
great.
not going to laugh at you. They said they don't even laugh at the biggest stars. We edit in fake laughter because it's a porn, like everyone's high and drunk and not with her. I was backstage watching the monitor, just going, "Oh my God, they're scream laughing at her." I'd never seen it. And this was after them saying, just look into the camera, pretend they're laughing and keep going.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
I know they make a big deal about the AVNs. I've heard Howard Stern talk about it. I heard Lisa Lampanelli on Howard Stern talking about it years ago. Is it televised?
Yeah. It's on Showtime. Like I said, they say that worldwide, not just Showtime, but with all of it, there's over 40 million people that watch it every year. So it was a bit of a
Wow.
Wow.
boost to her career in a lot of ways, but it's also porn, so it's not like it's the biggest helper. But in the comedy field, it's a big deal because it's always had big comics. So it was always a marriage that we all agreed with. So it's a big deal for comics to host it still even. I mean, Matt Rife just did it.
Yes, I did hear about that. Yeah. So with your management company, where was I going with that? Matt Rife threw me off. Matt Rife just did the AVN. I heard him talk about it on a podcast. Oh, you had Ron Jeremy as a customer. I'm sure he hosted it several times
He did what?
as a client. You had
So
you
yes.
had Ron Jeremy as a client with your.
So yeah, I do
How many
have.
times did he host it?
He never hosted it. He was just their like, main guy. But yeah, so if people don't know, I'm a manager also. I have about 80 clients right now that I represent and about 500 comedians that I book and magicians and other people. Um, but yeah, he was one of my clients and that was a disappointing one. It's like he got caught up in the Me Too movement too. I don't know if people know this, but he went to jail. I woke up to a 6 o'clock phone call with someone him saying, "Have you heard the news?" And I went, I hang up. I just searched his name and it says Ron Jeremy has to turn himself in for sexual something at the courthouse. And I called him back and I went, I don't know anything about this. I said, I hope you didn't do it, but if you did, I hope you rot in jail. And he goes, that's fair enough. Can I have my lawyer's number? I gave it to him. I hung up, never talked to the man again. It's kind of
So is he
crazy.
Wow.
still in jail? I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, no, he went to jail and he sadly, unlike Bill Cosby, he actually has really, really bad Alzheimer's. He had lost his hearing, he lost his eyesight. Like at the end of me managing him, he was only doing small roles because his mind was going and his family was involved, his lawyer was, I was trying to get everyone to just take care of the man. Like he needs help, he doesn't need to work anymore. But unfortunately, he likes taking care of people, so he was still trying to make money for like this girl he takes care of and this person and he had money, like,
Mm.
but he was whatever. So by the end, he was just doing cameos and it was just a sad situation. But having someone in your life that's accused of horrible things like that is just, it's a mind F. It really is, because you go like, damn, he was
Well,
around my
and
family,
you
this
represent
asshole.
him. It's almost like by association. And
Right.
no,
And
that's
it's like
just
you can't blame someone. It's like I would never blame Harvey Weinstein's agents because like they're not going to some strange party where he rapes them. You know what I mean? Like, why would he?
right.
I wasn't going to parties with Ron. I went on a couple comedy
Right.
tours with him and he came over to film some cameos at my house, but I never saw him around women. Why would I?
So before I knew you were his manager, I have heard, because I'm a fan of comedy, that he used to do like strip clubs and comedy clubs all over America, and he had an okay act. This is what I was told. Now I don't know how great his comedy act was, but they said he made a fortune just on the road. Everybody wanted to see him. Now it might have been majority strip clubs. You can probably elaborate more on that.
Okay, so we had done a few comedy tours and they were okay, lucrative. They weren't the best. Like I stopped doing them because it was just too much hassle to go out with him. He's too needy. You know what I mean? He's like, even before he got the Alzheimer's and stuff, he's just too famous, too needy. He's a little crazy. Like he would pack grocery bags, like the kind at Ralph's that you get or Smith's or whatever, with his clothing. And I go, what are you doing? I just bought you a suitcase. If I bring these, they can't take them away from me on the airplane and put them under the airplane like they always do. I always lose something when they do that. So he'd walk around with like garbage bags to get on an airplane. And then he would take an hour to get
Right.
off because he thought something fell out of his stupid garbage bag. And then people would walk up to us at an airport and go, oh, Ron Jeremy. Oh, never mind. Garbage bags. Is that the homeless man or is that? I was like, no, that's him. That's him. But yeah, He's just a kooky dude, but I guess here's the truth. And the reason I wasn't afraid to bring him on the road, he had done stand-up before he was a porn star. He actually started out in New York as a teacher for special ed. And then he became a stand-up and was best friends with Sam Kinison and Andrew Dice Clay, and even got into a big car accident with Sam Kinison, I think before Sam was even famous. Like, he came in second place in a comedy contest back in the 70s to Andrew Dice Clay. Like, he's been around a long time
So
doing
he,
stand-up.
so he did have chops. He was good. He was a good comic.
No, he was never a good comic, but he was never bad.
Okay.
What Ron, if he never did porn, he would have probably been a host at a comedy club. He was just kind of that guy who had a couple dumb jokes and, you know, but I'm sad for him. I'm sad that that's how his life turned out. But if he did these things wrong, I'm not that sad for him. I'm just sad at, I'm
Yeah.
sad when anyone does something wrong,
Yeah.
Like, why do you have to be bad? Like, you asked a good question earlier. Like, how can these guys be so rich and famous and miserable? Didn't you say something like that at the very beginning? Like, we just don't
Yes.
get
Yeah. And
it.
into that crazy stuff. Just, yeah.
But you know what? It is.
You can't go.
Jim Carrey said
Don't know who
something
you are.
powerful. He said online the other day, it said, I wish everyone could get rich and famous and realize that it's not the answer to all their problems. And I was like, wow, that's powerful, because even when I've had the most money I've ever had and was super happy, I could have gone anywhere I want, done anything, you still have the same, you and your wife are going to have the same fight over the dog, shitting in the whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change but what it does for me, here's what I think about money. Forget fame. I know a lot of people want fame. I've seen too much fame. Like, I've had fame to where I thought it was annoying, and I'd never even had it. Like, I had this much and everyone else, the stars, have this much. Money is good because, let's say you guys are having some troubles and whatever. It sure is nice to be able to take a break and spend some quality time to fix whatever it is and go on, maybe on a vacation, and say, let's just work on ourselves when you have money. But if you don't and you're living paycheck to paycheck, well, now she's at work and we haven't even talked in 2 weeks. And it's like, we're not even, it's like money can help in those ways. It can help your daughter not have to be yelled at some shit restaurant by some manager. If you're rich, you can tell her to go get a better job. But other than that, I think people's problems are the same whether you're rich or poor. I mean, I read all these biographies, and man, like, we're listening to the one about Harry, the Prince of England, the William's brother, and it's sad. He grew up his whole life like not knowing anything about anything. He still had to rely on his dad to, like, even buy him clothes. And because you think of him as like being, oh, he must be a royal, he must be rich, he must have billions and millions and he can fly wherever he wants in the world. Everything he had to do in this book, he's like, then I had to ask my dad if I could go on this trip. And then the royals had to set up this whole thing. And then I accidentally said this while I was on it, and I had to go on this apology tour. I'm like, oh my God. His life doesn't sound fun at all. I've never watched one of those shows like Billions or any of those where, Yellowstone, where one family looks happy. I'm like, man, if I had billions, you would just see a yacht and me like laying out. That would be the whole show. 1 hour of me laying on a yacht. And it's hard to get
But
mad
I don't.
to do that. Huh?
But I think if you hit the lottery tomorrow, if you love comedy like I love magic, if I hit the lottery tomorrow, I would still want to work. She says not as much.
Yeah, just let out.
But I could not sit on an island the rest of my life.
No, me either. I didn't. Me either. I couldn't either. I would still work. But the nice part is, and you know what I'm talking about. Here's a great example. We were just in Reno, and they don't fly you because it's pretty close. It's like a 7-hour drive. So they don't add that. They pay me enough. But the problem is, when I went to buy flights, it's normally 150 bucks each. So 300 bucks gets me and my wife there. This time, the cheapest one way was Spirit for $427, and it was a 27-hour trip just to get there. I think it flew to Atlanta first and back. Everything else was $600 and up just for the way there. I'm not even talking about coming home. So I said, honey, we're driving, right? If I had money, I would have paid whatever. You know what I mean? Like the kind, if you had that kind of money is what I'm saying, where you pay
Right.
whatever and you go, I don't care if we even make that much money, on this trip. I'm going because I enjoy it. But when you're
Right.
But when you're driving back like yesterday, and it took us 12 hours and we literally got buried in snow, like a snowstorm hit us at the top of a mountain to where our car was almost covered to where the police couldn't even see us. Finally, they came up and a
Wow.
snowblower blew it. And the cop goes, follow him. He goes, I know you don't have chains. Follow that snowblower. And we did for like 20 miles, going like 5 miles an hour like this. But it's like, you wouldn't have to do that if I had billions in the bank or millions, that would
Right.
be just not on the menu. So it does help, don't you think? Wouldn't you? Aren't there gigs you're like, man, I wouldn't be taking that one dumb gig at the blah 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 every year?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's some paychecks, and I've talked about it honestly on the podcast. I would never mention them, and every time they book, I'm like, yay, thank you, it's money. But
Yeah,
you do your 40 minutes and you get out, and you try to do the best you can. They don't know because they keep rehiring me. But boy, I hate that venue.
sure.
But no one will ever know it. And I won't say it on here, and I won't say it on social
Same.
media. I advertise them just like everything. But
I will say this.
that's I'm
All the
not
venues I play
right.
now, I actually love. The ones I hated, they were all like really crappy. They weren't paying enough. Some of them were trying to charge comedians for food and drinks. So COVID killed all the bad ones. It really did. Like at first I came out of COVID going, oh my God, half of my gigs are gone. But then I went, oh wait, none of the good ones are gone, just the bad ones. All the ones where
Right.
like the guy would say, cash this in a week, or don't, or will you take chicken wings instead? They're all gone.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Dude, we've already done an hour, and I'm telling you, I've only asked 3 of the 20 questions here, and then none of the research I did today even got on this podcast. We got to do it again. I had a blast.
Yeah.
Tell
Anytime.
everybody your socials. Tell everybody where to find you.
Okay, so my social is Dante the Comic. Here's what's on my socials mostly. It's mostly my activism and my stand-up. And so just pick and choose what you want. And but yeah, I mean it's like if you don't mind me yelling at cops or whatever, I'm not like here's the thing. People like I put out a lot of videos about yelling at cops and I don't hate cops. I just don't like crooked people. I'd do it if these were grocery store people. As a matter of fact, I am like going after grocery stores right now. That is my new activism. They're at Ralph's by my house. I took a picture. All the vitamins are $30 to $70. I mean all of them. I mean, if you would like a little thing of vitamin C, chewables, they're $44 at Ralph's in Hollywood. $44. There's $7 online.
Oh,
That's gouging.
Wow.
That's why we have inflation. Companies are doing that, not our president. The company chose to do it. And then if you check out my Twitter, the last tweet from me is me saying Kroger, Smith's, Ralph's. How come you're not responding to any of my DMs about price gouging and why are there $44 chewable vitamin C on your shelves?
Is it because that they're not prosecuting people stealing $500 or less?
Well, okay.
Now you have to pay for that?
So here's the thing. I think that people in different states think that in California, people are running in and stealing. I've never seen it once in my life.
Yes.
I've never seen it. I've never once seen it. People show it, and then here's the problem. They'll say it's California, and I'll do research, and they'll be like, oh, that was actually in Chicago, or this one was in New York, or blah, blah, blah. So people are saying this. I've never once seen it. I think it's overdone. It's almost like that rumor of like people are eating babies. It's almost like, people come to LA and they think they'll see gangs. They think that everywhere you turn are homeless. If all you show are that, then you think you're coming to a homeless camp. There is a couple streets in downtown with homeless people. If you drive Sunset Boulevard, I'm sure you can count 20 tents if you go 10 miles. I bet you could. I bet you could, but it's not like how they make it on TV. If I showed you my neighborhood, I have a nice Mercedes outside and my garage is full, so I have to park on the street. I've lived here for 16 years. I have 2 dogs. My wife and I walk our dogs at midnight. We've never had anything bad happen. We've never had our home broken into. We've never had our car broken into. I think people like to make rumors about places and make them think that, but it's not even true. And the other thing I feel is like, as the Republican side of me, why don't they just shoot the people? I would. If you come into my store and you are stealing or breaking my stuff, bam, that's what guns are for. You're on my property and you're trespassing. Sorry. Sorry.
So there's all the medicine isn't behind locked in your place? All the medicine isn't behind at the pharmacy and stuff? Is it all behind locked cabinets so they can't steal it? Is that fake too?
Nope.
wow.
No.
We're in Virginia. We have no idea. My
Yeah.
publicist is in LA. I hear things and I see things, but I am shocked. I thought that LA was on fire since the pandemic, and it was piled up.
Oh my gosh, I'm
I'm
gonna do because of this. I will make a nice LA video of just driving around to show people what it's really like. Because you're not the first, buddy. You're not. Like people say this all the time, and I've gone after the mayor a lot for this and just gone, what? Look, if you need to clean up the homeless, do it, but you have to get them out of Hollywood Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard because that's where all the tourist money is going. Put them anywhere else. But if they're right there, you're going to lose the people from Virginia that are coming out for the first time and going, I don't want my daughter to walk past that homeless camp. We're out of here. We're never coming back. Because that's not my reality. You know, like my 20-year-old daughter stayed at my house watching it while we were in Reno, and she walked to Ralph's every day. It's a 5-minute walk, and I knew that she was going at 10. I didn't think twice about it because there's no crime in my neighborhood. Zero crime.
Yeah.
And I live in the heart of Hollywood. Like I live right where I could walk to the Chinese theater within 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So
Very cool.
he is right there.
Yeah.
So TikTok, Instagram.
Oh, sorry. God,
You do
that's all you asked me before. And I went off on all of this.
No,
Dante
you're
the
good.
Comic.
You're good. No, that's great. No, you're great.
I'm just
have to
Dante the
go
Comic.
into-
Dante the Comic.
Dante the Comic. Dude, you're awesome. Thank you so much. We will get you back because
Yeah.
I'm
And I
telling
want to talk to you
I had a
later
blast.
about you know what. We'll talk about.
Yeah, man. Hey, only thing we have left to say is see you next week.
Check us out online at wesisley.com and patreon.com/Wes_Isley for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled WESISELI.